Welcome to Momentum Monday. Today is November 24th, 2024. Howard, what's going on? So, how many Dogecoins does your dog Lindsay own?
I can't get her. She's so rich. Every time she barks, we buy a little Dogecoin. So I gotta say, I own some. I've owned some for a while. I forgot about it, but not enough to tip people if they want some Dogecoin. I offer the caddy today some Dogecoin. He did not accept. So people still want cash, surprisingly. So I think Dogecoin's the change purse of the internet.
But
So
that might change. I mean, as technology is changing, as Web
I
3.0
think it's up more than Bitcoin
is getting
in
more
this.
popular, and applications they are getting more accessible, and we might see people using them more instead of dollars. Uh,
Yeah, you're swing trader. You're an old man. Just
yeah,
this degenerate economy, no one has time for swing trading. So
exactly.
let's walk through the
I
market
mean, the
through.
market is still holding well, and we've talked about it in the past 2 weeks. But there are three main uh, trading themes after the elections.
Hmm.
Obviously, crypto is the leader. Anything related to crypto is just has gone crazy. I mean, MSTR just exploded. Robinhood, Coinbase, all of those Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs.
Oh my goodness.
So these are the leaders, like these are the true leaders since the election. And then
Yeah.
right after them, number two is the financial sector. And some might even argue that crypto is actually part of the financial
Yes.
sector.
XLF is
So in
G.
general, financials, then you can say that they are the leaders. Obviously, if you expect deregulation, this is the industry that is going to benefit the most because it's going to take the most outrageous risks with other people's money, and it's like if it turns out to be right, it's going to make the most.
Yes,
Uh,
the stage is now set, as in any financial bull market, where the financials lead. The beginning and the end is now in process because they always find a way to stick it to
well, at
if
least
we
you,
if we pull up MicroStrategy, he's kind of like a bank meets degenerate. Like he literally is selling the stock to buy more Bitcoin. It's genius. Like this
yeah.
is like a perfect. It's like a triple Lindy of circular
I
jerk.
listened to an interview with him. I mean, he's
Oh, he's
very
super smart.
eccentric,
Like what's that?
smarter. He's very smart and eccentric, and he's saying, "Oh, if you want um, exposure to 2x the Bitcoin and 2x the and also 2x the volatility of Bitcoin, MicroStrategy is the way to go." And then
Yeah, because
he
he's selling his stock to buy more Bitcoin. It's hilarious because the stock is overvalued compared to the asset that he's buying. And so it's a hell of a trade he's putting on, and he's squeezing the hell out of Bitcoin at the same time. And again, I am not a professional trader, so I'm just a professional tape watcher. And I don't think there's not too many
other
people.
companies, however, are starting to mimic what he does.
Yes,
In
which is never a good
particular,
sign because they're all part of this perfect trade. Even Jack Dorsey, who is like a Bitcoin maximalist at Square, is starting to do this. And I told people to buy Square not because of the execution of the company, just because Jack is pulling off this, you know, so
that's a huge base. Yeah.
well, it's a huge base. But if you go back monthly, the guy's a complete putz. Like the stock has done nothing. It's like the Kathy Wood of
Yeah, since
uh
2017, basically. Yeah.
yeah. So, but again, it's a bull market. So we are now in
It is a
story.
bull market, but then let me continue with the trading themes. Like the other big trading theme is
Mhm.
that big tech, mega cap tech is underperforming after the elections. I mean, Tesla is the one big exception, the outlier.
Yeah.
But anything else, if you look at it, like Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Apple, they are down
Yeah.
or significantly underperforming
But they're underperforming most of
since
the
the
year.
elections.
They've been underperforming most of the year relative to like other names. But yeah,
Well,
Tesla.
I'm talking relative to the S&P 500.
Okay.
Since the election, there's definitely been some distribution in some of them. I don't know if the market is expecting, probably it is discounting some political involvement in that is going to impact them in a negative way. Obviously, Google is expected to be split into two companies at some point. And then you had, Amazon pulling back, Microsoft, Apple just, you know, under their 200-day, under their 50-day moving average. So they're underperforming. We haven't seen that in a while when the general market would rally and those big cap tech, which account for a very large percentage of the S&P
20% of the global stock market or
and the
the
QQQ, uh,
20% of the
and
whole
they're
market.
underperforming. And obviously, you have Tesla just continues to make headlines and make new highs. And obviously, the market is not currently pricing in the reality. It's just thinking about what's possible a few years from now and discounting the best case scenario for Tesla. And Tesla is setting up for a breakout here near 360. And I wouldn't be surprised if it tests its all-time highs near 400 soon. It's not
Yeah,
that
I mean,
far.
on Trends with Friends, JC is bullish consumer, and Michael Parekh, who knows a few things, is bearish. But again, this is I I just think now the tailwinds are behind Elon. Like he can do what he wants. He can cut himself a China deal. He's negotiating for China with Trump. I mean, there is no rules right now. Everybody has the ear of the president. Um, and I think the big thing to watch is the bond market, right? Like Trump is not bigger than the bond market, and the bond market is signaling many things here. One is stop the rate cuts because they're not working. Um, and we'll see how everybody thinks they're smarter than the market, including Elon Musk and all his cronies. But the bond market is saying things aren't so easy. There's many mixed signals, right?
Yeah.
Canada, it showed a lot of economies are struggling. We're not getting true news out of Russia or Ukraine. No one knows the real story, and everybody's an expert. But the bond market is a pretty big expert just in terms of its size. And the long, I mean, you can see it. It's creeping. Rates are creeping up since the election.
Yeah, that absolutely. And so is the US dollar. And here it is, UUP. I mean,
Yeah.
straight up since the election, which is not really what uh,
Because we're the
the admin.
best place in a shitty global neighborhood.
I mean,
Um,
and then don't forget the dollar is up against the other major currencies, against the euro, against the yen. But
yeah,
if you compare it to commodities, it's down. I mean,
yeah.
crude oil is perking up. Energy stocks have been perking up. They're, making not new highs, but definitely outperforming the S&P 500. Gold is bouncing. So compared to those other commodities, compared to crypto, the dollar is struggling. But compared to other major currencies, which is what people use, to pay for
Hmm.
stuff right now,
Hmm.
it's doing better.
Yeah.
So it's a very bizarre world where we have a very strong dollar, which is obviously is going to impact U.S. exports at some point, and this is not good news for the new administration. Uh,
Right. I think that's the main point. They have to be careful. They're handed a fake good economy, I think. And so he's not going to have decades. He's got 4 years, and the stock market will be tricky. And the bond market could do a lot of damage to this bubble. But, party on. I've got one foot out the door. I think the biggest thing that I'm watching right now is, you know me with the degenerate economy, is this Netflix, Spotify, Reddit transition to higher multiple, right? These are companies that were being given away a year ago, um, 2 years ago, and now at all-time highs, they're like You know what I mean? They can't, they won't go down. And I've been kind of hypothesizing what this means, Ivan, but these are companies that are all moving to the real, they are the new pulse, whereas Twitter used to be the pulse because it's controlled by one person. Twitter is no longer the pulse, and I think Twitter is kind of frittered away its relevance with like people like Tucker Carlson, whereas Netflix, Spotify, and even Reddit have this global real-time potential to push people to something. And we saw it with the Tyson fight, even though it was a crap
Yeah.
product, the ability to push, I don't know how many millions globally to one, forgetting that it didn't work well. The fact that they could make a water cooler out of like an old two idiots fighting was pretty incredible. And so I think the market is, and if you move into a real-time economy, the last time we had a real-time economy, the market boomed, right? Twitter, we went from 20-minute delay news to real-time news, right? And you went 2007, you just went into this incredible tech boom. And now you have the second wave of real-time economy, but much richer profits and much, instead of Twitter, you have Spotify, Netflix, Reddit, which are easily going to make more money off this real-time economy. So I think, you know, there's so many cross signals, but there's really some interesting mega trends taking shape with AI.
Okay, let me ask you something then. So
Mhm.
let's say for the
I'm
next
not saying
four,
buy these stocks like I've been long this trend, but like
yeah,
I think we talked about Reddit a month ago and it's up 60%.
yeah, I mean, unbelievable. One of the big leaders this year, especially among new IPOs. So for the next 4 years, if you had to choose between like a portfolio of Spotify, Netflix, Reddit versus on the other side, just Google, which one would you pick right now at those prices?
Well, Google
Knowing,
owns YouTube, right? So they're part of that group, right? So I forgot YouTube. So it's a tough one because Google's got the government on them, and they have many moats to defend. They've got to defend Chrome. They have to defend search. They have to defend mail. They have to defend maps. They have to defend Android. And I don't
they
think
have
they have to
Waymo
defend
as well.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I think if they spun off YouTube, I'd be bullish on both. But you got to pick. They're both. I wouldn't take either of those trades right here at these multiples. I think, but I'm much more bullish on the Spotify Netflix world just because they're very focused. Same with Reddit, same with if they could spin out YouTube, I think YouTube would be, a multi-hundred million billion dollar company. So what I'm super bullish on is this idea of how Netflix and Spotify can move people to an event. We're starting to see it even on StockTwits with earnings calls, right? The fact that even though we have a smaller community, about 1 million people, when we send out a notification to people that there's a live earnings call, something relevant to our users, right? If we know that 100,000 people are following NVIDIA and we can tag them that Jensen Huang is doing a live earnings conference call, you're going to watch it on StockTwits over other places because that's where you got the alert from. So there's all these new real-time events that whereas Twitter doesn't know who's interested in NVIDIA, StockTwits does know because it's on people's watch lists, right? And we also have a real-time community where people are hanging out all day. So there's all these new things that as video gets cheaper and as audio gets cheaper and more global, we're starting to implement these things at StockTwits too. So this is what led me to believe that. So Google, as much as I love it, um, it's tough to fight the government, you know. And JD Vance is pretty anti big tech, right? And it was a smart move by Elon to get close to this type of government. So, and remember, as long as bonds don't puncture this bull market, Ivan, you could have trillions of dollars come out of these companies. And even though the indexes might be in a bear market, the small caps could be rage because all that money would not go into bonds, would go into different stocks. So that's kind of what you have right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Last week we saw rotation
Yep.
into small caps. So far, it hasn't been very sustainable. Let's see we've talked about it. It depends on interest rates. If rates continue higher, the rally in small caps is not going to last. But
Yeah.
there is a chance that maybe rates are going to pull back. We'll see.
Yeah.
Last week we had big earnings from Nvidia, another super strong report. I mean,
Hmm.
their growth is accelerating a little bit, and maybe they stand back their guidance a little bit so they can continue
Yeah.
to deliver surprises. But
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to really change market expectations uh, with those types of reports. I mean, at this point, the best case scenario for NVIDIA is probably kind of priced in, and a small earnings surprise is not going to move the needle for them. It's already expected, it's priced in. You'll need a much
Hmm.
bigger earnings surprise, which they didn't deliver. And obviously, it continues to be the most profitable company in the world, and they will continue to grow. But ho- what matters is how much is already priced in. And one of the comments that NVIDIA CEO made is that their new chip, the new AI chip, Blackwell or whatever its name was, will require a completely new data center. So all those companies that they've been rallying for the past couple years, um, which products are used to build data centers, they're also going to be big beneficiary
Yeah.
alongside NVIDIA. And this is why we saw many of the energy stocks, like VST and also cooling stocks just rallying again last year and last week. And that's just why we saw anything nuclear related, like companies that probably not
Wow.
making
What's
any
that
money
one?
right now.
Spell it portable nuclear. And what is that called? NNE?
I mean, they're like the three OKLO, NNE, and SMR. These are like the small, uh, super
Wow. That's,
speculative nuclear
I know, but wow.
stocks.
But that's only $1 billion only. Wow, that's
BA,
interesting.
WXT, and a few others. So
Uh,
they've been the speculative way to play this. But yeah, energy will matter even more. Energy sources if the AI revolution continues. So yeah, those trends will probably remain in play. Like this is why we see utilities like Energy and CEG and others
But there's so much
bouncing.
cash to pay for these build-outs, so NVIDIA is still in a good position. Unlike
Yeah, absolutely.
Cisco, when Cisco was booming, all their customers couldn't afford to pay. Now you have, if Netflix wants to build out data centers for real time, push 100,000 people per hour, 1 million people per hour to watch something, they can go build out their own data centers with NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is actually in a much stronger position than in the last bubble when Cisco was in,
Are you a
northern.
buyer here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, but I own some and I'm not selling. Again, there's a lot of smart people buying here. I don't know. Listen, I'm kind of excited about having high yield still. And this is a benefit to people that have that are older and don't have to take as much risk. This is a good market for people like me because you can own some boring stocks and and focus on yield, right? You're getting paid 5% in your cash still. So, and inflation doesn't bother very wealthy people because there's so many creature comforts from just sitting in your home with streaming and with. So I don't know. This is not a good market. That's why you have this degeneracy going on. You have these young people wanting to speculate because home prices are ridiculous and cost of living is, you know this, having a baby and like, trying to, own property and manage your costs. Things are outrageously expensive. Um, and so keeping up the Joneses has never been harder. So you've got this speculative itch, despite rates being bananas, relative to where they were 3, 4 years ago. Um, so it's very hard for me to like put all the cross currents together, but I'm staying bullish because of the price action and because the bonds have not yet pierced this bubble. But I worry that there's too many people in charge that think they're smarter than the market. Um, So we'll see. The markets always get even. And so I just urge people to kind of respect, how easy it's been lately. And it feels like, Ivan, there's a lot of people crowding into the same trade, but at the same time, breadth is expanding. So there's still a
Yeah,
lot of stuff that's interesting.
definitely. Towards the end of the year, we are already seeing high momentum stocks. These are the stocks that are up the most for the year, bouncing and making big moves. And we saw it last week again, in stocks like, SG and Carvana and a bunch of others. They were among the price leaders. They had a big bounce. They had like 10, 20% weekly moves. So this is typical for the end of the year. So yeah, it's still a bull market despite the underperformance in big tech.
Well, the financials, man, and like you're not going to short a market that has Goldman, the brokerages everybody's trading, despite having great years, like Interactive Brokers, Coinbase, everybody's slinging right now. And no one's locking in their yearly gains. Everybody's talking about, pushing the envelope through, you know. So again, I it's easy for me to be nervous, but the price action is such that I think you still got to speculate on the long side.
I mean, there are smart ways to speculate, so without, risking your entire year. So why not? If you know what you're doing.
Okay, everybody, we will see you next week. Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you, Howard.